September 7th, 1996, 11 p.m. A black BMW cruises slowly down the Las Vegas Strip. Inside, rap and film star Tupac Shakur sits in the passenger seat. Death Row Records kingpin Marion Suge Knight is behind the wheel. No one sees the white Cadillac that slowly pulls up alongside, or the gun that's aimed directly at Tupac. Tupac is hit several times in the chest. He's rushed to the University Medical Center, but surgeons can't stop the internal bleeding. 6 days later, Tupac Shakur is dead.
All eyes on me.
I cried right then when I heard. Anybody who loved him is still affecting him right now. Guaranteed.
All eyes on me.
For 6 years, the mystery has lingered and taken on a mythic quality. Officially, the crime remains unsolved, but unofficially, theories abound. Many revolve around one central theme: the ongoing war between LA's Blood and Crip street gangs and their affiliations with East and West Coast rappers. But in early September, a new theory emerged and it rocked the music world. In the next half hour, VH1 News will talk to the main players, break down the night of the murder, and try to get to the bottom of the mystery: who killed Tupac Shakur? The Los Angeles Times ignited a firestorm of controversy when it reported that the man who approved the hit on Tupac Shakur was another rap star, the notorious B.I.G. LA Times music writer Chuck Phillips spent a year investigating the story. He says he learned that Biggie, whose real name was Christopher Wallace, agreed to pay the Crips $1 million for killing Tupac and even supplied the murder weapon.
According to various gang members, Biggie asked to have Tupac killed, asked the gang members to kill him.
Yet Biggie's friends say he couldn't have done it. The night of the murder, he was thousands of miles away.
It was a regular day. He was chilling. He wasn't in Vegas. He was home in Jersey.
In a statement, Biggie's family described the LA Times story as, quote, irresponsible journalism, and said they may file a lawsuit against the paper for, quote, untruthful statements and accusations.
There have been discussions about it, but nothing concrete has actually been, set in stone. So until such time, there's nothing really to discuss.
The last hours of Tupac Shakur's life began, like so many of his gangster rap lyrics, with an act of violence. On September 7th, Tupac met up with Suge Knight in Las Vegas to attend a Mike Tyson heavyweight fight at the MGM Grand Hotel. Among those in attendance, members of LA's infamous street gangs.
They came out to attend the fight. Basically, they'd done this for a decade, where they would go to every major fight.
At 8:45 p.m., Tupac and Knight headed for the exit, accompanied by an armed group of Piru Bloods, a Compton street gang whose members were on Death Row's payroll. In the MGM lobby, someone noticed a member of the arch-rival Southside Crips standing near the elevators. The Crip was Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, who months earlier had beaten and robbed one of Tupac's bodyguards. Tape from an MGM hotel security camera shows what happened next. In a flash, Tupac, Suge, and others from the group jumped Anderson, punching and kicking him to the ground. Terrified bystanders scattered as the group streamed into the casino, then out into the street. That's what we know. Phillips' account of what happened next was gleaned from interviews with investigators and anonymous gangsters, many talking for the first time. The LA Times reports that over the next 2 hours, a roughed-up Anderson, vowing revenge, quickly organized a meeting with his fellow Crips at the Treasure Island Hotel. There they devised a plan to take their revenge.
It's hard for a lot of people to understand that a beating like that would result in a killing, but in the gang world, dignity and honor is the whole thing, and disrespect it's something they do not tolerate. And it's really a strong code of ethics, and so an infraction like that where you beat somebody up in front of everybody at a major hotel when other gang members are present, you've just really invited a murder.
The Crips told Phillips they then arranged a secret meeting with Tupac's greatest rival, Biggie Smalls. Once the best of friends, Tupac and Biggie were embroiled in a bitter public feud, fueled by dueling record labels, threats, and Tupac's claim that he had sex with Biggie's wife.
You claim to be a player, but I bust your wife. We bust on bad boys, brothers touch for life.
According to Phillips, the Crips met with Biggie, who was staying in a suite under an assumed name at the MGM, and asked him to pay $1 million for the hit.
Biggie agreed to the thing and provided a gun.
A .40 caliber Glock semi-automatic. At 10:30 p.m., Tupac and Suge, leading a procession of fancy cars, drove north on Las Vegas Boulevard. They then turned right onto Flamingo Road toward Suge's night spot, Club 662. At 11 p.m., Anderson and 3 other Crips set off in search of Tupac, heading out of the Treasure Island Valet parking circle in their white Cadillac. They linked up with another car and drove south on Las Vegas Boulevard. When they turned onto Flamingo Road, fate intervened. Just ahead, Suge Knight's black BMW.
They're stunned that this group of guys that they want to hit is right there. And so they say, let's do it right now. And they, quickly move up right next to him. And according to other people, Tupac was talking to the left, looking out the left when they pulled up on the right. And they pulled right up next to him and ripped off like 13 shots very quickly.
A panicked Suge drove his bullet-ridden sedan across the median and crashed into a curb. Las Vegas police rushed to the scene and called an ambulance for the gravely wounded Tupac. He would die 6 days later, his family by his side.
I walked in the room to visit him, and he was shaking the whole bed. He was a warrior, to the end.
According to Phillips, the Crips escaped undetected, speeding back on I-15 to Los Angeles in the dead of night. In the days following the shooting, the Vegas police made little headway in their investigation. Detectives reviewed the MGM security tape of the Orlando Anderson beating, but did not connect the incident to the murder.
We've looked at it several times. We have no indication or actually nothing that it's going to lead us in a direction to arrest anyone that was involved.
On October 2nd, Compton, California police detained Anderson as part of a gang roundup to curb violence in the wake of the murder. And although Las Vegas police questioned Anderson, they apparently didn't think much of his possible connection to the murder.
That was the only time Las Vegas police interviewed Orlando Anderson, and it was very briefly.
Anderson denied knowing anything about Tupac's murder and was released.
No, I was not involved. I'm like a victim. I feel, sorry for him. And, like I said, I was a fan of him.
Less than 2 years later, Anderson was killed in an apparently unconnected shooting. There have been few leads since.
The one thing that shouldn't have been done was you don't throw up your hands, and that's what the Las Vegas police did. That's a problem.
And then, in March 1997, Biggie himself was gunned down in Los Angeles. In an eerily similar circumstance, he was shot as he sat in his Blazer at a traffic light on Wilshire Boulevard. The case remains unsolved. Coming up, Biggie's family and friends fight back, plus the roots of the feud.
One man against one man made a whole West Coast hate a whole East Coast.
When Who Killed Tupac Shakur returns. Tupac Shakur and Christopher Biggie Smalls Wallace both grew up in homes without fathers, in neighborhoods strewn with drugs and crime.
Baltimore has the highest rate of teenage pregnancy, the highest rate of AIDS within the black community, the highest rate of teens killing teens, the highest rate of teenage suicide, and the highest rate of blacks killing blacks. In Baltimore, Maryland. And this is where we chose to live.
Biggie Smalls grew up in the tough Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn.
He was in the hood, hustling, selling drugs.
What is it that, young black men face when they're in a neighborhood with their peers and, how they have to be a man in their neighborhood.
This shared background helped bond the two budding superstars early in their careers.
I'm a high guy from Bed-Stuy, putting the swelling on your eye. Your nose even, when I choke you, you stop breathing. When police come, I'm leaving.
As soon as they met, they became best friends. Biggie slept on his couch. Tupac kind of mentored him in terms of getting into the industry.
Tupac, who had since moved to California, was the West Coast's biggest hip-hop star, while Biggie was a rising talent in the East.
Biggie Smalls, Junior Mafia, represent, baby.
He knew that Pac was real, that Pac was being real with him. And that's rare in this industry.
I remember them being friends. When Pac would come into town, Big would get missing. He wouldn't be around the neighborhood anymore. He would end up in the city with Pac.
But Tupac felt snubbed after Biggie's first record came out.
I heard a lot of Pac in Biggie's first album. And the fact that Pac wasn't mentioned, that he didn't have a song with him, no shout out or nothing, I was like, Pac gonna be mad.
Their friendship changed forever after an incident at New York City's Quad Studios in November 1994. Biggie's crew was recording late at night when Tupac arrived.
He wasn't coming to see me. He was going to do a record for somebody else. I just happened to be upstairs working on the Junior Mafia project. Seasoned him, saw him coming in, and was like, yo, Pac on his way up.
Two robbers surprised Tupac in the lobby, swiped his jewelry, and shot him 5 times.
I got shot 5 times, ain't near a bullet go on my chest.
Everybody knows the story. Pac felt like he was set up.
I used to share my experiences in the game and my lessons and my rules and my knowledge on the game with him. You know what I mean? He owed me more. He owed me more than to turn his head and act like he didn't know he was about to blow my head off. He knew.
I think that Pac's feelings was hurt. He felt like if you come to the West Coast and you with him, he ain't gonna let nothing like that happen to you. So even if they didn't personally call a shot or know anything about it, they just felt like they maybe had him in a position to allow something like that to happen.
Biggie denied knowing anything about the robbery.
Some kids happened to be in the hallway, stuck him up, shot him or whatever. Got caught up in the mix like that. It's a coincidence,
It seemed like, we got the blame for it, and it's like, yo, we ain't have nothing to do with that. But just that night, just something went wrong.
It just got weird really quick after that.
Tupac's anger grew.
Tupac released the most bitter, vindictive, vengeful battle rap and diss song of all time, which was called Hit 'Em Up, where he begins to literally talk about having sex with Biggie's wife.
You claim to be a player, but I bust your wife.
So it was ingenious, and it was evil, and it was vicious, and it was powerful and compelling at the same time.
Sucker, I hit him up. I couldn't believe that everybody was treating Biggie like the biggest star in the world. I couldn't believe that people was buying into the player image. But Biggie is not a player.
According to Phillips, Biggie was enraged and allegedly started telling gang members he would pay someone to kill Tupac. After Tupac signed with Death Row Records in 1995, the feud grew more intense due to hostility between Death Row founder Suge Knight and Biggie's producer Sean P. Diddy Combs. The music industry saw a war erupt between the coasts.
Come on. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row. Y'all don't love us. Y'all don't love us. Well, let it be known then. We don't give a f. We know y'all East Coast. We know where the f we at.
One man against one man made a whole West Coast hate a whole East Coast and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? And that really bugged me out.
But was it enough to lead to murder? Biggie's friends and family say that despite the animosity, there's no way Biggie called for the hit on his rival. In fact, they say that Biggie always tried to downplay the tensions with Tupac.
It wasn't a big situation like people thought it was, but it was more the media and DJs and radio jocks that was really promoting the drama.
Phillips also writes that Biggie had ties to the LA gang the Crips, enemies of the Bloods, who were affiliated with Suge Knight and Death Row. Phillips says that Biggie hired Crips as security when he went to California. Tupac alleged Biggie was involved with the Crips too.
I hate when them New York niggas be throwing up gang signs. I seen Biggie throwing up this. Biggie don't know nothing about no gang signs.
But Biggie's allies say he had no gang ties.
Big wasn't involved with any Crips. In terms of Biggie throwing up gang signs and pledging that he is a Crip and he's down with these guys, no, that's never happened.
And according to Biggie's friends, he was never in Las Vegas the night of the Tyson bout. He was here at his home in Teaneck, New Jersey.
We watched that fight at home. Big was in the studio early that day, did what he had to do in the studio, then went back home and we watched the fight. We wasn't nowhere near Vegas.
We were in the recording studio actually recording a record, Nasty Girls. We were in and out of the studio pretty much all day. In the session itself, it was really just myself, Big, the engineer, a couple of cats running in and out of the session, just trying to see what's going on.
No photos have yet been found placing Biggie in Vegas the day of Tupac's murder.
I know where Big was at that day. At the end of the day, you got to place Big in a suite at the MGM Hotel that day. But I want to see some information that could put him in Vegas. If y'all really believe he was out there, you had a boxing event where it's athletes, actors, rappers, people from all over the world. MGM Hotel sold out, and nobody seen this 300-pound, 6'4" dude walking through there with a Kango on. Come on, man, you know, it's nonsense.
The attorney for Tupac Shakur's mother says Afeni Shakur isn't convinced Biggie was involved either.
We don't know what happened, and we're not prepared at this point in time to point the finger at Christopher Wallace, and that's Afeni's position. Too many times she has found that people point fingers at the wrong people because they're convenient targets. She will not do the same.
Chuck Phillips says he stands by his story. Coming up, other theories and other suspects.
It was conceivable that Suge Knight set this whole thing up.
When Who Killed Tupac Shakur returns.
Yo, check it out, straight from Brooklyn.
The LA Times investigation into the murder of Tupac Shakur led directly to fellow rapper Biggie Smalls. Others have advanced another theory. Russell Poole, a former Los Angeles police detective, was investigating Biggie's death when he became curious about whether there were connections to Tupac's murder. Like the LA Times report, Poole initially focused on Orlando Anderson's role in Tupac's death. Anderson was beaten by Tupac and Death Row Records boss Suge Knight in the MGM Hotel lobby. When Poole reviewed the videotape, he was surprised at Anderson's reaction.
He's there taking a beating, and then he gets up and he doesn't want to report anything.
The detective suspected that Anderson may have been a trigger man for the real mastermind in the case.
According to witnesses, bodyguards that worked for Death Row Records, they said that it was conceivable that Suge Knight set this whole thing up.
Why would a record label chief want to kill his top artist? Poole's theory was that before Tupac died, he was going to break with Death Row.
Because Tupac Shakur was such a busy artist, he was unaware that Suge Knight owed him millions of dollars. Word got back to Suge Knight that Tupac Shakur was going to move on and start his own company and get away from Death Row. So he's got a motive. He's got several motives.
That leads to the obvious question, why would Suge put himself in the path of flying bullets?
Now, why would a man put his life in danger in this drive-by shooting? But you got to remember, shoot down low in the door. It's got to go through the door. It's got to go through human flesh to get to Suge Knight.
After Tupac was killed, Suge refused to cooperate with investigators. He explained why on national television in 1996.
It's not my job. I don't get paid to solve homicides. I don't get paid to tell people.
Suge did not escape the evening scot-free. He was found guilty of violating parole for helping beat up Anderson. He served 5 years in prison. But LA Times reporter Chuck Phillips doubts Suge had a role in the murder of Tupac.
My sources say that's not what happened at all. It was the Crips who wanted to kill him, and it was because he disrespected Orlando. They say Suge Knight had nothing to do with this.
Suge Knight has long denied he had anything to do with the murder of Tupac. He declined VH1's request for an interview. For friends and family, the failure of police to arrest anyone in connection with either case is still a very painful subject.
I don't think they ever attempted to solve it. It was done. Oh, good job. Not just Tupac, but his nigga killing nigga. Who gives a fuck?
It just appalls me that nobody has been arrested for those two deaths. And it's just it's like a big cloud with a question mark on it.
In September 1999, Valletta Wallace and Afeni Shakur, mothers of the rappers, appeared together to plead for peace.
The memory of our sons, Tupac and Biggie, should continue to inspire us and unite us.
When the LA Times story broke, Valletta Wallace was quick to reach out to Tupac's mother.
We received a call from the Wallace family that they wanted to join with Afeni to request a federal investigation of the murder of the two men. Our position is we don't trust any governmental source at this point.
And now rappers on both sides worry that the LA Times story may disturb the uneasy peace between the coasts.
So that's why I don't understand who's bringing this up and why are they? What's to be gained? Because if it turns out to be true, there's going to be more bloodshed and people getting killed and hurt.
It was just cooling down. Now they just put more fuel on the fire and trying to blow it up again. It could get serious, man. You know, some people could get hurt.
6 years later, answers that only raise more questions and bring more pain for the friends and families of two of hip-hop's greatest rappers, all of whom want closure, but not necessarily the way it's portrayed by the LA Times. For VH1 News, I'm Allison Stewart.
Now we was once two brothers of the same kind, quick to approach a ghetto cutie with the same line. You was just a little smaller, but you still